Happy Tuesday, everybody. Happy Tuesday, and welcome to this is from Crystal XO, but we are in a reality check situation. We are on a Tuesday coming to you. Usually we see the radio station. We have the From Crystal XO on Power 108.9, but because we could not do that today, and tonight's conversation was so important, I wanted to make sure that we did a reality check because sports are trending right now. Everything from Rihanna performing at the Super Bowl to, of course, the situation going on with Nia Long, Brett Favre, Michael Jordan's son. It's so much happening. So I had to get an expert, one of my sports experts that I have back in my my little arsenal of experts that I have. He's also a very good friend, but most importantly, he's a former professional athlete, and so I thought it would be very fitting to have him come on and talk. He is a former athlete and now a podcast host himself. So please help me welcome my very good friend, Jamal Bottom Line Burke.
Hey,
What's up?
what's up? What's up? I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, well, like I said, we had to do this because this is a relationship platform. We talk about relationships and pop culture topics, but right now sports is trending across the board. Like sports is in pop culture, sports is in relationships, sports is happening in every single area, from scandal to relationship issues to political scandals. It's all about sports right now. So I thought you were the perfect co-host for tonight's conversation.
All right. Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, first of all, let's start with the good news that's not controversial. They have finally announced Super Bowl 2023. Rihanna is headlining. How do you feel about that?
I love it. I mean, we didn't think we would ever hear from her again since the makeup and the clothing and everything like that. So just to get a opportunity to hear her, see what she sounds like, see what she's gonna look like. I think everybody's in high anticipation for that because she's one of our queens.
Absolutely, absolutely. People were saying, is Rihanna? I know people, like you said, have been looking for new music. Rihanna has been, first of all, she is reached billionaire status with her franchises, her makeup, the Savage, Fenty, also the lingerie. Like she's killing it. She also has found love and happiness with ASAP Rocky, and she had a beautiful baby. So I felt like she's living her best life. But I'm excited to see her come back. But I'm like, the Super Bowl really isn't about new music. Super Bowl performances are about those hits that everybody loves. And we know that
Yeah.
Rihanna has a catalog that is out of this world. So I agree
Yeah.
with you. I'm excited to see, what she's going to sound like. I know she's going to look amazing because she doesn't ever, she never disappoints when it comes to that. But I want to ask you, what do you think about because we know J-Lo and Shakira. I've heard, people saying, they made J-Lo and Shakira kind of split the time. Who do you think? There's so many different people that Rihanna could have, as a feature, from Kanye to Justin Timberlake. I mean, the list is in Jay-Z.
Jay-Z.
What do you think? What do you think? What do you predict she's going to surprise us with?
Well, if you're going to surprise, what if her and ASAP Rocky come out together?
I would love
And
that.
you know what I'm saying? I think
Yeah.
that will be pandemonium.
Yeah.
If they during this private time, having a baby, like you said, if they was able to cook something up in that fashion. But of course, she's the who's who. You got T.I., Jay-Z, Beyonce. Only the best of the best for Rihanna because she's somebody we hold dearly to our heart, and she has a lot of big hits. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, he definitely be fitting, but I also think this is an opportunity for her to just share it by herself as well. So,
Yeah.
but this is the Super Bowl, the biggest platform. So this is just a great, I think, rollout. I wouldn't even be surprised if that's just phase one,
Yeah.
and either before or after she releases an album.
Yeah, I think that is phase one. I even think that they may announce another, feature for the Super Bowl performance because I mean J-Lo is huge, and for her they did, J-Lo and Shakira together. I think, Beyonce, huge, and she had Destiny's Child. So there's always surprises, right? So I don't know. I mean, I love what.
And after last year's All-Star cast, that was an amazing performance. So
Yeah,
I think, but we got to remember too, Jay-Z's in charge of all this. So
yeah,
you all got to think he's imagining the best of the best. He wants to make sure this is part of his legacy, his imprint. And so whenever the day comes that he does transition to ownership, I think he will. The person that follows in suit, they already will have a blueprint of how to capture our attention in a big way, and then also be able to have a gaggle of some of our best and brightest stars be able to showcase their skill set all on one stage in one night. It's the biggest night in sports.
yeah, yeah. I want to ask you this. I think we've got a little bit of static, a little bit of feedback on your end. I want to make sure that we get that taken care of. If you guys are just tuning in, I see some people tuning in. Make sure that you drop an XO in the comments so that we will know you're here and join in on this conversation. We're getting the good stuff out the way first. We're getting ready to get into this controversy in just a minute. I want to ask you, because I know you're a big Jay-Z fan, and like you said, Jay-Z is in charge of this. What are the odds of you think Jay-Z actually making a surprise appearance? And do you think that that's the place where Jay is right now? I don't like that the Jay-Z that was on Rihanna's a few of Rihanna's records from Umbrella to, so many records that she has Jay as a feature. I don't really see that being the Jay-Z of today.
Yeah, no, this is definitely a much more mature, evolved, conscious. He's a daddy now. He's a proud father. He's a daddy's girl. And I don't believe that he will make an appearance, but at the same time, I can see if he does. But he looks so relaxed, just participating and being involved in the audience last year when he was iconically reciting Snoop Doggy Dogg's, lyrics. That was classic. And it's great for folks like us just to see him doing ordinary things, even though he's an extraordinary person.
Yeah.
And he's truly one of our kings and one of the greatest stories that we've ever witnessed. And I'm just thankful that, I was alive during his lifespan, because it truly is aspirational, inspirational, and the big word since the famous God did.
Everybody
of all the dreams and affirmations and the prophecies and the all of the predictions that he's littered in all of his lyrics.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely inspiration just to watch that couple. So I'm excited. I look forward to hearing more announcements. But you're right. You have Mary J. Blige, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, 50 Cent, all in one halftime performance. So I definitely think there are more surprises coming. I know this is probably not going to be a popular sentiment, but Chris Brown was a big feature with Rihanna. They have records together. I would love to see them perform together. I mean, everything has, their careers both changed so much after that incident, but life moves on. It's all about redemption. I don't know if that would happen, but that's definitely somebody that she has, a big hit with that remake to Umbrella, and they've done some records, after that. So I think that possibilities are endless. I don't know if Jay-Z would co-sign that, because we know Jay-Z and Chris Brown don't have a relationship, but I'm just speculating.
Yeah, that's a great speculation, and I think that culturally, it would be huge. It would be so such a hallmark moment of literally somebody showing you that she's moved on with her life, and it'll be super symbolic of a brand new a brand new beginning, getting a birth, the motherhood, and everything like that. And it shows a high level of maturity and evolution. Mm-hmm. And I just think it would be an opportunity to be an educational moment to say, hey, we moved on. You can.
I agree. I agree. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. We'll definitely be in touch. Thank you so much, P. Harvey and Smurfette Smith, for dropping those XOs in the comments. You guys, please keep those coming so Jamal and I will know that we have an audience out there. We want you guys to be a part of this conversation. I want to move on.
Better? Is the audio better?
It's still, we still hear a little bit of feedback.
Hold on, let me see. Let me see.
I think it's just the sound. Maybe there's a little bit of feedback there. You guys, let us know that you're here. We're gonna move on. We're getting ready to move on to this Nia Long conversation, and I wanted to get Jamal on to talk about this because there's two issues here, right? There's the issue of the relationship and the fact that Nia Long, who really hasn't done anything but be in a relationship, right?
Yep.
And now, because of the situation with her fiance, she now is a trending headline and she's a trending topic. Also, in addition to Nia, who was an innocent bystander, there's also numerous women. Thank you so much, D. White. Hey, Saptosa Foster. You. But there's also numerous women that are part of the Boston Celtics, administrative team and just the professional organization as a whole that also have been affected by this rumor. And I just want to ask your opinion as someone that's been a part of a professional sports organization, Jamal. The idea of fraternizing, within the team. It seems to be really heavily frowned upon in a way that the public really doesn't understand, because at the local post office, people are cheating with each other's spouses. Like, that's happening all the time. And I don't know if people are getting fired and publicly strung up, and embarrassed for it. And I think it's cheating is a different issue than professional misconduct. Or is it? From your perspective, what do you think? Where do you think we are with that?
Well, at the baseline, you're right. No matter what organization, what walk of life, what occupation that you where you're at, that's happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest difference in this scenario, as more and more details are made public, I think it's a legality situation. Because it is bizarre when you think about the timeline of getting suspended for a year. But in this situation, there's a lot of peculiar factors. And the fact that, he's coming off of taking the Celtics to the finals, yet there's been it's common knowledge at this point within the organization. People knew about that relationship. I think that it's just very important, and we got to be really careful about coming to conclusions, because I do firmly believe that there are bigger pieces of evidence that has yet to be made public. I've heard a lot of gossip, a lot of speculation about other women involved and other components and stuff like that. But to answer your question, this is unprecedented. I do believe that depending on how this thing all plays out, this could create a completely new protocol of how this subject matter is handled, both on a disciplinary action, but also how it's viewed, publicly by the viewers and fans as well.
Yeah. I want to read something to you. And if you guys are just joining, hello, Love is Mimi and Tisha W. Thank you guys so much for those XOs in the comments so that we know that you guys are tuned in. I want to read you, Jamal, a statement by Artemis Gordon, and he's blogger as well. But he had something to say about the fact that this is frowned upon within professional sports. If you guys are just joining, we're talking about the Nia Long situation and her fiance Ime Udoka, that he had an affair, and it is coming out that there was more than one woman involved in the situation.
Allegedly, yeah.
Allegedly, but those rumors are coming out, and also allegedly that the woman initially that the ring bell conversation is married to someone else within the Celtics organization, which is a huge issue, right? Because it's like
Right.
it's all the way in the family. But this is Artemis says several of you have asked why did the team suspend Ime Udoka for a year, allegedly for just mixing with the coworker's wife. Most organizations in professional sports have a labyrinth of rules on paper, but there is a universally unwritten rule that every member of any organization knows: wives and girlfriends are off limits. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's a huge no. There are plenty of fish in the sea, but sometimes guys are greedy. This type of internal strife can wreck a team, not just for 1 year, but for many more to come. I've done these stories before, but for you new folks, have you noticed that you do not see Tony Parker anywhere, especially not in San Antonio? This is because he was softly exiled after it was revealed that he was mixing with Erin Berry, the wife of his teammate Brent. This crushed Brent so much that he quit the NBA, and it caused the Spurs regime to fall so hard they haven't recovered. Parker had just signed a huge contract that the team explored many ways to void. Or let's look at the Phoenix Suns, who from 2005 to 2010 were always in the hunt. That is until the leader, Steve Nash, had a notion that his South American wife, South American Leandro Barbosa. Leandro and Alejandro were close and spoke in foreign language, had their own jokes. Needless to say, Nash had enough and wanted Barbosa out. He was traded that summer, and that locker room was also toxic. It was eventually discovered during the beginning of the 2010 season that Steve's other teammate, Jason Richardson, was the real culprit. He was promptly traded less than 2 months into the season. Jason's career suffered as injuries alongside his reputation killed it. The final team that had championship aspirations to be destroyed by wife mixing was the 92-93 Detroit Pistons, as Dennis Rodman found out the hard way. He was told, do not fall in love with Anika Bakes. Well, you know, Dennis, he had to do it. And that's until he saw her getting mixed in the jacuzzi at the team's facility. Dennis, it's negative about Dennis Rodman, but we know Dennis Rodman is quite a personality. But I did you know about some of those situations? And I would assume, because there is such a private fraternity, right, in sports that you guys have, that if having an affair with someone that is in the administration of the team, do you think that's one of the reasons why there's such a harsh penalty for Ime?
100%. It's unacceptable. Although it happens, it's unacceptable, and it's catastrophic, and it really is devastating to an organization. And specifically in this case as well, let's not forget about the power dynamic, because Ime was the head coach, and you think about the hierarchy, and this is a subordinate, right? Allegedly, it was the vice president's of finance's wife. And that, imagine if you're him, right? And I called up a friend of mine who's a multimillionaire. He's been in the corporate world for decades, and I'm like, I know as a black guy how we feel and how I feel about that particular situation. This is a white guy. I said, let me get a white man's perspective about it, unapologetically. And he was quiet for a few seconds, and then he says, Jamal, if I'm him, first of all, one of us got to go. One of us got to go, right? How do you show up comfortably for work? And then he said, Jamal, how do you show up to the Christmas party when everybody knows your business? Can you imagine that water cooler talk? And so, although it does happen, and they talk about religiously how it happened rampantly in the 70s and 80s and 90s. But again, today's a new day. Today's a new climate. And again, I think that this may be, and even though I do believe, depending on how this thing unfolds, why was the Celtics so quick to put that out there? I do believe in Stephen A. Smith with that perspective of it. But I also guess, and would surmise, since the fact that the Boston Celtics authorized a third-party law firm to conduct an investigation with this relationship, that they came back to the VP of Finance and said, what can we do to keep you, or what can we do to help, or whatever, something along those lines, right? Given the legality consequences in the situation. I believe that he might have said, hey, keep my name and my wife's name out of this, identity out of this, yada yada yada. Because if you think about it, it's a speculation as far as who he is, what he looks like, but also with it seems like the entire world want to get a real picture and confirmation of who this woman is, given Ime's association with Nia Long.
Well, and that was my next question. I have a question in the comments. I want to ask a couple of things, but my question was, this was a consensual relationship, at least from what we've heard, right?
Allegedly, right? Allegedly. But we got to try to use that, because my question to that is, if it's consensual, right? Why is only Ime, and it's a company policy that allegedly he violated? Yeah, why is only one party being disciplined when it takes two to tango? Right. That's why I think that, because it's such a hush hush, and anytime you got lawyers, I think everybody's lawyered up, and we all know lawyers, one of the first advice is to be quiet, keep a low profile, things like that. But yes, the theory may be, it's all speculative, but maybe is it a situation where publicly she's saying it's consensual, but maybe in the back privately the narrative is shifting, maybe it's non-consensual, because females always have a right to change their mind, right? And so that was something else that came to mind over the last few days while details were developing and being made public at those times.
No, I agree with you, because I feel like I feel like Nia is a sacrificial lamb in this situation. I cannot imagine. And again, allegedly, we hear that rumors are suggesting that she did not know that this woman was someone that was arranging travel, because Nia has relocated from California to Boston. To be close to Ime, and she was involved with that. But with her being, she just, she's a celebrity, one of our just A-list in Black Hollywood. So it does make sense that the media is not really allowing her much privacy, even though she did come out and say that she would appreciate it if people respect her privacy. She's on being a mother at this time. But I think that it's unfortunate that the headlines aren't even really, a lot of people don't know who Ime is unless you are a fan of the Boston Celtics or a sports head like you. Right. You may not recognize his name. I only know him from Nia Long. They focus on her at the games, and I was a Celtics fan because of Ray Allen. So I will just say.
Well, initially he was with the San Antonio Spurs for over 10 years. That's the Tim Duncan team. And Tony Parker, who was mentioned previously by that blogger. Yeah. And so he didn't come to my my world until he was on the cover of Essence back in like early 2000s with Nia. I think they just had their son. Maybe, yeah. But one thing I will add, I spoke to another executive. This time is a Black woman that just keeps it funky and fresh. She gets right to it. She ain't for play, right? So she said, Jamal, listen, help me understand something as a Black man. And before I say what she said, I gotta say this part, because this is important. Not often that men, right, will articulate to other men that, envy, jealous, they're envious of a guy, jealous of a guy, yada, yada, because of their life and lifestyle. Make no mistake about it, Ime Udoka is living what a high 90% of males aspire to be once they, when they was boys. Think about it, he was a head coach. Mm-hmm. He had, a relationship and a child with, one of the baddest of all baddies that ever walked this earth, Nia Long, right? He has the finances. So I say all that to say, the lady said, help me understand, Jamal, as a Black man, how is it that this brother made a conscious decision to engage in an inappropriate relationship with this Caucasian woman, yet would not marry a Black queen, right? I was silent because I'm that was what the appropriate thing for me to do, right? I just no, I'm not stepping in that water that quickly. No. However,
I do. just to that point before you continue, because that is your sister is right. But I do want to say that Nia did an article, did an interview a while ago, and I have so much respect for her because she is from, I don't know her personally. I've interviewed her once, but I don't know her. But what I do know is that she keeps her private life out of the public, spectrum, which is impressive. However, she did an interview years ago after she had her son. And I think her son's around 10 or 11 at this point. And she said that for her, I don't think that they're not married because of him. Nia said for her, marriage is not something that she needed in order to feel like she was in a great partnership, right?
Right. I was gonna say that. Yes, I was gonna say. I do remember the interview because they keep posting that. But I remember in real time, listening to that as well. And another thing I will say, I know to ordinary men, ordinary people, to kind of use John Legend's verbiage, but this is Nia Long. Oh, this is Nia Long, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, when you're a high value man like Nia, now I don't even want to say Nia, but when you're not, we'll just do general because I do not want to be this personal with this because like you said, we don't know, so let's not even go there, right? But when you are a celebrity, when you're an athlete, when you're high profile person like this gentleman is customarily, it's custom that you're gonna have the baddest of the baddest in your life, or dating them, or having sexual relations with them. So, even famously, Mark Anthony, not to keep bringing up J Lo, he had indiscretions with her, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's J Lo." He's like, "Yeah, I know, but that's just another woman to me." The most classiest, I think, in the most articulate way, in a most digestible way of saying that without using names and different women and stuff like that is like when Puffy famously said, "You guys might see a blue Bentley, I just see a blue car." So we might see these beautiful women, these dream girls, yada yada yada. But when you are a part of that lifestyle, that the high value man, your athletes, a movie star, yada yada yada, that's just the pick of the litter for yourself because of the position and the status that you hold.
I definitely hear that. I think that, it's different levels to this. So that's a part of it. And I also want to say he is accomplished. He also is a very attractive man. So even if he wasn't a head coach for a professional team, he probably would still have, a lot of women. I think that makes it a salacious, really elementary argument. The whole, well, she's Nia Long. I think it makes for great headlines, but realistically, that's an issue that has nothing to do with the woman. And part of my issue that I kind of cringe is because people want to assume, and unfortunately, a lot of times this conversation is among women, that if a woman looks a certain way or if she has a certain level of status, that means that she would not get cheated on, meaning that if a woman does get cheated on, it's somehow her fault for not being at that level. And that's ridiculous. That's still a part of us playing into this idea that we have to be good enough or something enough for a man. Nia Long is beautiful, but Ime's actions have nothing to do with who he was with. They have everything to do with who he is. I mentioned Jay-Z earlier, that everybody has so much reverence for. Jay-Z has had the same thing, same issues with Beyonce. And to some people, Beyonce is the queen of all queens. So I want to make sure that we acknowledge in this conversation that's happening in social media that the problem is we're still equating a woman's looks to a man's abilities. Like if she looks like this, you should not cheat. There have even been statements by other players saying, "Oh, he exercised such bad judgment, I wouldn't trust him, now." But that's really asinine, because anytime you make a commitment to someone, I don't care what they look like or who they are, that's your word. So the issue is on you, not necessarily the way that woman looks.
Yeah, but I mean, I think I don't know. I'm not speaking for that player who said that, but let's be abundantly clear. It was a terrible decision. It was foolish. It was senseless.
Right. No, but
right?
I'm saying
but it has to be said though. It was foolish. It was senseless. but like
But Jamal,
also,
any man that does that to a woman he's made a commitment with has made a senseless decision just
oh,
because.
no, what I'm saying in this situation though, the level and the dominoes of what is at stake both professionally and personally, and
Agreed.
but also but what supersedes all the salacious and this and that and this and that is the pain that's this cause, and the pain that involuntarily Nia has to endure and suffer. And then more important, let's not forget the son has to watch his mother,
Yeah.
go through those changes of the pain of a man's decision. So when he says the man's decision, I think this is a multi-layered, and it has a lot of slithers to it. But most people say, who cares about him right now? You know what I'm saying? And that's legit too, because look at what he did. I'll tell you, even on a sports level, Jason Tatum, who was an all-pro NBA player, looked like, it was so beautiful and sad at the same time when he did his media yesterday, because here you see a young, bright star, right? Just came off of the finals, but there's certain life experience you could clearly see in his face that was absence of, because he couldn't grasp what happened just a week prior, and then he had a coach and now had a coach, but you could tell he put that work in. He was in the gym to get better, to be able to make that next step. And now with the absence of that coach that has rich pedigree, that has so much NBA DNA to give, and he's earned so much respect and trust from the players, that now that's gone. He can't get that back. That new coach cannot give him that. Only Ime could, because
the new coach is young. The new coach is like 34, right?
Yeah. So he got to start from scratch. He got to build the trust back. He got to build the respect back. And that's not a knock against him, because kudos to him for, going on that journey and being selected, for that role. But it was just kind of sad as a former professional athlete as myself. You need, in order for you to be great, you got to be around great. In order for you to be the champion, you got to be around champions. There's just certain things in life that you can't substitute. So when the guy said, "Oh, when I'm this is what me saying, it's beyond bad decision. This is catastrophic." Now, I do believe that in time, he does the work that he should have a second chance. But at the same time, you got to hold your breath and withhold conclusions until all the pieces of the puzzle are on the table, because I do firmly believe that there's some big pieces that have not been made public. Just with Matt Bond, the way he was so spooked in his IG post,
we quickly, talked about that.
Recanting abruptly, and the way Stephen A speaks so confidently about, I'm not going to be the one to tell it. It's be irresponsible of me for to say it. Kendrick Perkins, a former player, said the same thing. You know what I mean? And so I know as a former player that when you are said player that has relations outside your committed wife, girlfriend, whatever, that there's other teammates that met that woman. Yeah. There's other teammates that's been engaged and have relations, friendships, or whatever, but have communications, a better word, with that woman that even in this crisis, that still has access to her, that can still get information. So, I mean, let's not underestimate that. That's why, again, we got to be careful. We got to say as ledges off as possible. And we got to never forget that all of these people are lawyered up. All this, everything about this, it says lawyer.
Get the lawyer right. Lawyers are basically lawyers and public relations crisis professionals are crafting everything that comes out at this point. If you guys are just joining, I'm having a conversation. This is a great conversation with Jamal Bottom Line Burke. Jamal is a former Atlanta Falcon.
Yeah.
What is happening? Jesus Christ.
Falcons, Dolphins, Cowboys, Bills.
All of that. But most importantly, he has moved on. He is now a commentator. He is Jamal Bottom Line Burke, and he has great perspective. And I'm thankful that he agreed to join me tonight for this conversation. We're talking about sports. Sports is trending. We talked about the fact that Rihanna is headlining Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking forward to hearing more with that. And of course, right now we're talking about Nia Long and Ime Udoka. I do want to ask you this, Jamal. So Tiffany asked, why didn't we get the same response with like Tristan Thompson? He cheated and had a baby. I think for me, the reason that wasn't the same is to whom much is given, much is expected. And so Ime
Right.
being head coach, it's a much different situation. That's like you said, you're a mentor, you are a figure of it's a leadership thing. And
Yes.
it shows bad leadership. And that can have a trickle down effect through several different things in the team. I want to ask you, Paul,
well, there's a couple ways to answer that real quickly. First of all, Tristan Thomas, Khloe Kardashian, beautiful girl, nothing but love and respect for her. You know, prayers go to her to deal with that. But she didn't work in an organization.
Yeah.
Again, we can't forget about the power dynamic. And then also, like you just said, you know, Ime, he has a position of authority as a head coach, no different from like a bishop or pastor, preacher versus a congregation.
Right.
Tristan's a player versus like, you know, somebody in the congregation that has transgressions and things like that. So that would be the biggest distinction to the young lady, you know, who asked that question. We cannot underestimate, again, there is a domino effect of the corporate culture that has been attacked by this senseless, foolish act. Again, it was consensual, but yet there was only one person that received the disciplinary action, which tells me that, again, there's more to come. So I just wanted to address that comment because I do think that was I think that was a good question though.
Yeah, and I think even from what the blogger that I read earlier, Artemis Gordon, that a lot of the players may have been let go, but for him to get a year suspension, my question is, do you think that's harsh? From what we have right now, there may be more things come out, but then also, do you think that if depending on this year, right, and what happens this year, if the Celtics have a great year, they go back to the finals and could even go further, do you think there's a possibility that they may not bring him back? Do you think that he year suspension, and if things don't go well, they may say, oh, we need to figure out how to bring Ime back. But if they do, that you know, do you think his job is in jeopardy? Because to me, that year suspension could be a waiting period for them to go ahead and let him go without, you know, doing it the way that's going to cause the least amount of, you know, a backlash for the organization.
Well, first of all, the reason why I laugh, thank you for finally solidifying why I moved from Boston to Atlanta, because I feel safe. I feel so much safe to say this thing. It is blasphemous to think that it should be championship expectations in Boston. That's not happening. That's not happening again. But to answer your question, sadly, what I also don't think is happening is there's no way he's going to be able to go back into that building and coach that team after what has, you know, trickled out, and so many different people have been affected by that. And I just don't see a situation which, if I'm wishful thinking, the only way is if like the young lady came out, or young ladies alleged multiple women came out and said it wasn't him, and they got to like refute. But just on a professional level, the way that thing vibrated through that building, and the way the challenges and adversity that it caused, now that the team has to additionally overcome and manage, in addition to just going through the tough regular season of the NBA, I do not see a pathway that Ime returns and coaches for the Boston Celtics following his suspension. But I do believe, hope, and pray that there is another pathway down the line, that he coaches at some point, with the caveat in a asterisk that whatever else has not been made public, it is not criminal or so heinous that it immediately takes away all pathways. And now we're not even talking about, you know, Ime, you know, coaching, and it becomes so much more serious.
Yeah. I know that there's a different racial climate in Boston. And
Mm-hmm.
so I want to ask you, do you think this would be a different conversation, a different temperature if it was not an African American coach? Because we literally have not seen, I mean, this is a new age and new new day for us to see African American coaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
So which is great to see. But do you think that it is a problem even more so because it is an African American, well, actually a black coach and allegedly a Caucasian woman?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's a race thing, right? I know a lot of people try to connect those dots and things of that nature. I mean, I think like, no question that there's a pink elephant in the room. We all acknowledge that, the pink elephant in the room, but I think it's flickering, right? Like these lights in my back, right? Like
Elephant, literally.
yeah, it's a pink elephant. It's flickering. I don't know if it's dark in here. I don't know if it's an elephant. I don't know. But the in all seriousness, no, I don't think it's a racial thing. Again, I think it's a bad decision, bad decision thing where again, we got to let the dust settle. But it's really unfortunate. I just think that, again, not to just keep sounding like a thing, we got to be careful just because until all information rolls out,
Yeah.
then because hey, here's what I would say comfortably. If it's as simple as it was, let's just say, let's keep it basic and plain. If it was as simple as a consensual relationship with the coach and a member of the organization, right? This young lady who also participated, and it was a year long, and there's nothing else that hits the bed, the South is going to have some explaining to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And then things will, I guess you're right, until we know everything. But what we're having a conversation on is what we know as of today.
Yeah.
I think, and actually there's a few questions in the comments.
Let's have them.
Wadi says that she's from Boston and we don't want him here. And also she says it is a race thing. We had high expectations for him, and we're looking forward to welcoming Nia to the community. I agree in the fact that we I guess we put a harder, we expect a lot from each other as African Americans, and we do get to that point, or as Blacks, we do get to that point. It feels like, oh, we were rooting for you. Now you messed it up for everybody, right? So I think there is a lot of disappointment. But Tiffany,
but that's different though. But we can't conflate the race with a bad decision. You know what I mean? I understand like there's disappointment because of the expectation, because of the warmth and joy that he provided, as a coach to the fans of Boston. But we gotta be careful with that narrative, because this is not a race thing. This is a bad decision that has a lot of ripple effects. We can't conflate the two on this situation, even though all of the components are there. City of Boston, predominantly white. He got a black coach. He did so well. And that's not negate or act naive about the history of Boston and how they rest in peace Bill Russell, excuse me, how awful they treated him, during his time, and stuff like that. So the history is there. However, we can't conflate that and blame this on race. This is a Ime Udoka situation, 100%.
Tiffany asked if she's a staff member, what are her consequences? Has she been fired? I think it's unfair from with the information that we have as of right now, that her identity and she's been protected if she is a consensual adult in the situation. And it would suggest by the ring door conversation, the fact that it was overheard, that fair. I think that, I think it is on trend right now to make the man the villain. And I'm not going to say that's not usually the case, or a lot of times the case, but I also think that consensual adults, there's a responsibility on both ends, especially because at the end of the day, even though he was in a relationship with Nia Long, they're not married, right? That is his fiance. He's engaged, but they're not married. She was married. So to me, the fact that her identity has still been concealed and protected for the most part, it is unfair. And I do think that's a problem. I also think that, it's hard. I don't ever just want to be the first one to call the race card, but I do think because it is a black coach, I do think that, the headlines, they know it's going to, and it's Nia Long. He's with, again, Nia Long is.
But Nia Long's publicist or whoever has been doing a sensational job keeping her out of this. They're real careful. They don't even say her name. They may reference her, but very minimum. At least in the sports, the way they've been reporting it has been, saying her name. Furthermore, I think we can't be too short-sighted where we're just focusing exclusively on Ime and a young lady. There's rippling effect. There's innocent bystanders outside of even Nia Long. Again, even a husband, right? We can't negate the fact of the damage that's done outside of these two making these selfish decisions for them two. The Boston Celtics as an organization, they do have to protect their culture. And again, we cannot forget the fact that these were company policies that they knew about, that allegedly he even was warned multiple times about inappropriate behavior and fraternizing with other women, allegedly, that they gotta protect their culture. This is bigger than just one woman, one man. So that's why I said this is multi-layered. And so, I mean, I know the main interest is these two and the identity and the activity of those two, but this is business, and we can't just only focus on the personal.
I agree with that when it comes to what is the legalities of it, but when you look at the headlines, and I just put his name in. Unfortunately, Nia Long's name is USA Today. Nia Long, Beyonce, Imrata Bahati. What celeb cheating scandals say? Ime Udoka affair was with and Nia Long's travel too. Like, Nia Long is pulled all into this, even though I do think her public relations team is doing a great job. Even when it says Celtics news details spill on staffer tied to Ime Udoka, Nia Long's picture is there alongside Ime. So I think it's unfair in many ways. And I also think, like we talked about earlier when we first started the discussion, the way this has rolled out is unfair to women, because not only has Nia been thrown into the fray, and to me, the headlines are more, again, the problem with how we're talking about the Nia Long and Ime Udoka cheating scandal. That's Refinery 29. Nia Long of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air fame breaks her silence after Udoka scandal. Like, it is really focused on Nia, and this woman's identity as of yet has been protected. That could be because of her. I don't know why it is, but I think that part is unfair to me, because Ime, I'm not concerned about. He did the crime. To me, it should be the people that should be in these headlines and that we should be focusing on are Ime and the woman that he allegedly had a consensual affair with. That's the problem. And that's what I feel like on this channel it's important for us to talk about, because it's setting a different precedent. Even when it's the New York Post, Celtic staffer who had an affair with coach Ime Udoka made travel arrangement for fiance Nia Long. Everything comes back to her, but yet this woman's identity is protected. That's a problem. So, that I think that I want to see who this woman be. Who this woman Harpo? who are that woman? Because if any consensual, now if it's not consensual, and because there are allegations and rumors that he was making inappropriate comments and people felt unsafe, other women felt unsafe with that, then in that case, those women's names and identities should be protected. But anyone who had a consensual relationship with the coach, knowing that was against the rules, it's fair. All's fair in love and war. Your name and your identity should be exposed as well. I'm sorry that her husband is probably embarrassed, but Nia Long has got to be embarrassed as well. So I don't think that he should be safe. He should get to enjoy the privacy of his family and identity being safe when our girl is thrown to the wolves, and social media. Twitter was ablaze, and everything was Nia Long, Nia Long, Nia Long. So,
I got a question. I got a follow-up question to that. So, what would that prove, or what would that solve if the young lady's
I think it's
name
unfair.
is
Mona says at the press conference on Friday, the Boston Celtics said the woman would not be fired. Septosa says, what changes when we find out who this woman is? I don't know that anything changes, but I do think that it feels more fair. This feels very unfair. This feels like, if you are in a relationship with a famous person and they have a lapse in judgment, you are, I mean, that's part of what you will have to deal with as well. And I get that. I understand that. Nia probably understands that, knowing that she is a celebrity.
I was
But
about to say we can't. What about the fact that Ime, given his occupation as a NBA head coach, and Nia Long, her occupation as an actress, they signed up for that as opposed to you're just you're an employee for the Celtics organization. I believe her occupation was an administrative one that helped arrange
probably,
make travel arrangements and stuff like that. So she didn't sign up for that. And again, we cannot forget the innocent bystander of her husband.
but she,
He's also and then also everybody else in the company that this is a business decision. This is business. It didn't happen like outside of a thing. This is something that is
but
collateral damage.
Jamal, Nia is just as innocent as her husband. And Nia's just, and even though she's a celebrity, that doesn't mean that she should be in the middle, embarrassed and humiliated because of this. That doesn't. You're
Oh, I
and
agree with that. No, I agree with that. I'm playing
Nia,
devil's advocate.
Nia is not. Nia does not. She's not a celebrity that shares. She's not a Kardashian. She's not somebody that shares her.
No, I agree with that. I was playing devil's advocate. I was just playing devil's
No, I
advocate.
got you.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, yeah. Because
I got
I'm always be sensitive. This is Nia. This is Nia. We always gotta be respectful,
you. Yeah,
protective, and just also just keep her in your prayers. Because this
yeah.
is,
It's got to be
she's innocent. Yeah, definitely.
It's kind of like when it reminds me of when Lela Rashawn's husband was caught
The director.
messing
Yeah,
around with
yeah,
Nicole Murphy, and you
yeah.
know everybody was talking about it, and she just like, I mean, she was blindsided. He was out there doing this thing, and then she was totally blindsided, and it was unfair. It was totally unfair. People were making assumptions that because she had gained weight, she deserved to be cheated on. Like, the conversation about, we have to change the way we look at cheating, and the responsibility being on the culprit and not who they're in a relationship with. That's to me one of the biggest problems with this. It doesn't have anything to do with Nia being drop dead gorgeous, Lela Rashawn being a woman who has gone through a normal, just being a normal woman. That's ridiculous. It doesn't. The problem is the cheater and their issues, not the woman, and the woman should really be left out of that. But that's what we got. We got to move on. If you guys have questions for Jamal, drop them in the chat, because I definitely want to make sure that we get as much from him as we can, since we got a pro athlete in the building with us, part of that talented 10. There's still a lot more going on with sports, Jamal. What Brett Favre, and I want to ask you this, because franchise players, those type of franchise players that are looked upon and admired and have, they kind of get a pass a lot of times with a lot of different things. Like, at and at any level, athletes get away with a lot. Whether it's getting people to do their work for them, getting free things, getting women throwing, like, athletes get away. You people get away with a lot, but Brett Favre is getting away with robbing the citizens of Mississippi. And I don't even, it's unfortunate that this money was taken from people that are underprivileged, but the reality is they're citizens of this country just like everybody else. It doesn't matter if you're underprivileged or not. He's a thief. And he was allowed to do this because of the privilege of being Brett Favre and being extremely talented in football, but being having no morals as a person. So I want to ask you, what do you think about this? I'm not sure why neither Brett Favre or the politician that he was able to do this finagling with are not being charged with anything. It's very strange to me.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on this scandal?
Well, as far as the Favre skin, I mean, it's despicable, right? Like you said, he stole from welfare recipients, the poorest of the poor in our nation's poorest state, Mississippi.
Mhm.
It was just a start, but he was pulled from his weekly radio show this week.
I saw that.
I believe as of this morning. So I
Mhm.
think that people are starting to respond appropriately. That's something that is unacceptable. That's something that is unimaginable, and it just shows such heartless cowardice, just inhumane feelings towards another people, and it's extremely selfish. Whatever's stronger than selfish.
Yeah.
And I do think that something should be done, and it's just a horrible story, and it just for me taints the way I would look at Brett Favre going forward.
Yeah, I think that I do think, I mean, athletes are people. I don't think they should. I mean, you get held on a
Yeah.
pedestal because of their prowess and the fact they're able to do things. But I think that they should be held accountable like anybody else. Even though the public, I mean, you got some people that go to great lengths to support somebody that's been able to do amazing things on the football or basketball,
Yeah.
on the football field or basketball court. But that's really not fair. I think I'm interested to see what else happens with Brett Favre. I think he should have to get that money back, because not only did he take millions for a volleyball center, but he also tried to double back later. Did you see that?
Wow.
Try to double
No,
back.
I didn't even know he still has the money.
Yeah, well, I mean, the money is in it. It went to fund one of his, something that he was interested in, a volleyball court, and then a football stadium, for something that he was involved with. But he should be accountable for that money, just like anybody else would.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
And hopefully
absolutely.
he'll lose more.
Yeah, it's one of the worst stories of the year.
Yeah. Well, another bad story in sports, Jamal. You guys are just killing it right now. The Phoenix Suns coach,
Yeah.
Phoenix Suns coach. All of a sudden, it comes out that he's said the N word and also been has very misogynistic ways. There's women in the organization that have come forward to say that he has made statements and made women feel very uncomfortable, and just been just extremely misogynistic in a lot of his dealings. And some of the players I saw, Chris Paul said he'd never had that experience. He was shocked. We know the head coach of the Phoenix Suns, Monty, was shocked as well. I feel like there's still this like good old boy atmosphere when it comes to sports. And we know that there are players, there are always black players, always white owners. And there's this idea, to me, I always see it. I graduated from the University of Oklahoma, and it always felt very much like a glorified plantation, in my opinion. I'm a sports fan, but it's still sometimes you got black guys out bringing the money in, and you got white men benefiting on the whole. I'm not that their athletes are usually very well paid for what they do, but still not in comparison
Mm-hmm.
to what they bring in. So, what are your thoughts on the Phoenix coach? And I believe that Robert Sawyer
Sarver.
Favre said
Sarver.
I guess he's going to sell the team now that
Yeah.
this has come out. That's he's probably didn't volunteer to do that. That was probably suggested to him by the other stakeholders, that he remove himself because it's a bad look.
Well, he was forced to. He was
Yeah,
forced to. LeBron James, Chris Paul, Steph Curry. There was a gaggle of players, prominent players, the top players that got together and reached out to the NBA commissioner Adam Silver, one of the best commissioners to ever do it, and told him that this is unacceptable and is wrong, and he has to go.
yeah,
And Draymond Green, the Golden State Warriors forward, he even put a petition out and asked owners to vote on if that owner should stay or go. So the most important thing is that the right decision was made ultimately of him selling his team. He's going to make a windfall of money. They projected anywhere between $2 to $3 billion dollars. That's what the valuation of the franchise. But the most important thing is just kudos to the players, especially LeBron James, the amount of weight that he has and the business affiliations that he has. definitely has impacted that because there was a number of sponsors already pulling out to support it and financially support the Phoenix Suns. So the most important thing to focus on is that it wasn't tolerated, it was unacceptable, and there'll be a new owner coming in, and that's the type of power that is necessary to start to change that narrative that you keep alluding to as far as the plantation, things of that nature. I think we're in a beautiful time, the glory times of power, player empowerment in the NBA. And I feel like it will only get stronger as the years go on. That's the hope.
I like that. Well, I got one more thing to talk about, and this is a little personal. So I sat down with former Heisman Trophy winner Herschel Walker to have a conversation for Rolling Out, and the response has been maddening. And I want to say, I just want to go on the record for the viewers that are listening, because there were actually a lot of my viewers and subscribers were upset that I actually had a conversation with Herschel Walker. And I want to say that, number one, as a journalist and a blogger, I'm a conversationalist, and I feel like I can have a conversation with anyone. I don't have to agree with them. I don't have to like them. I don't necessarily have to respect them, but I feel like conversation is necessary. And I also feel like it is important to know what you believe by listening to the opposite view, right? I learned that was a big part in college. I was a journalism major, and when you're doing persuasive writing, you cannot know your opinion if you do not know the full extent of your opponent's opinion. How can you claim to know what you're talking about if you haven't listened to everything? And I feel like a lot of times we have a precedent of I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. And when you don't want to hear it, that hurts you. We see with the last administration, a lot of people didn't think that Donald Trump had a chance at winning the presidency because they didn't want to hear it, right? They didn't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Guess what? It doesn't stop. Just because you shut down and don't want to hear it doesn't mean that things stop. And so I feel like it's important for us to hear. We have to hear what everybody is saying, and then you have to make your judgment based on what you hear and what aligns with you. So I just want to ask your opinion. I sent that interview to you because I was a little concerned about the backlash. But I do feel like even the fact that he's able to run for this seat and that he does have so much support is due directly to the fact that he is a football hero and a football legend. And that has put him in good graces with the average person that could not run for that seat, would not have that type of financial support. But because he does have that, he's a part of that football fraternity, that's afforded him this opportunity. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, listen, despite the feedback, the most important voice is your own, and the most important person is you. And that was a decision that you made, and I thought it was a good get as far as to be able to do that. And it's aligned with just listening to what you're talking about, how important it is to see somebody who thinks, feels, behaves opposite of yourself and has a different perspective than yourself. I watched the interview in its entirety this morning, and there was a distinct difference between the Herschel Walker that revealed itself in that interview that you conducted. And I thought you asked great questions. You asked about the commercials. You asked about all of the allegations. You asked about why he's running, things of that nature. And the imagery that was present during the interview versus the stuff that was in the commercial was two different people at different junctures of the interview. I thought he was soft spoken the whole time. It was like monotone.
Uh-oh, we lost Jamal. Love us be me. I'm sure it was hard to watch the interview. It was difficult to do the interview at some points in the interview, and I would say that about a lot of politicians. It was difficult. I've interviewed several politicians, and sometimes it's like, you could when someone is avoiding a question or doesn't answer in the right way. I appreciate that so much, Tiffany. I appreciate everybody listening tonight. Tonight's conversation has been amazing. Hopefully Jamal will be able to join us. But I just want to make sure that you guys understand that because whoever I may interview a celebrity, a politician. That doesn't mean that I agree with their what they believe in. My job is just to bring it to you guys. I've interviewed numerous people on television shows, especially when it comes to reality shows, and a lot of times I'm thinking in my head, I feel like you guys know in the chat, I'm like, but hey, my job is not to judge. It's just to bring the interview and let you guys do the dirty work. So I appreciate you all affording me that opportunity to bring that, and you can make your own decision. I definitely made my own decision, but I feel like we can't be afraid to listen to other sides, because like I said, at the end of the day, you need to know what other people are thinking, what other people are promoting. You don't know who's going to get in office. And if someone is in office and you don't know what their policies are or what they stand for, that's a problem for all of us. So I believe that it's important to make sure to bring the information to you all without turning anybody down. So that their team reached out and asked to do that. We also have asked for Raphael Warnock's team as well. He's definitely ahead in the polls, so I don't know that he needs to do that. But I also think that it's really important that we support Black media. And that was for Rolling Out Magazine. It's a Black-owned weekly publication that I work for, and I feel like it's really important. We often give our interviews when we get to a certain level to others, and it's really, really important that we are in control of our own narrative, regardless of what that narrative is. We need to be in control of it, and we also need to make sure that we know the facts from both sides. And so I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all the commentary tonight, you guys hanging out with us. Let me know if you're watching this later. Let me know what you think about the Nia Long, Ime Udoka situation. It breaks my heart, because I feel like any woman could understand what she's going through, but I also think it's very unfair the way the organization has protected the identity of the woman that was allegedly consensually active in the affair with Ime as well. So again, thank you guys. I'm going to go ahead and let this go, because we don't know if Jamal is going to be able to make it back. But I appreciate the comments. The chat was live tonight, as always. I love you all, and I will be back. We'll be back next week with last night we had LJ from Ready to Love. We have another, I can't tell you guys who it is, but I promise you do not want to miss this next Ready to Love interview. You do not want to miss it. It's one of the people that we definitely need to hear from. So I appreciate you guys all. I love you for watching. Have a blessed week, and I will see you later on.